So I know some of you joined me yesterday, and I'm feeling a little better because I've been a little discombobulated. Talking to Dr. Steph about that a little bit, as because usually we hang out for a few minutes before we go live, which is super awesome because you guys know I love Dr. Stephanie Peacock, and if you've watched any of her videos, you know why. Because I think you're so knowledgeable, Stephanie. Like you know a lot of things, and you're not that whole prickly black and white thinking, all or nothing. And it's just so refreshing to have a conversation and get facts and then go, oh, well, maybe you'll decide to do this, or maybe you'll decide to do that. And I love it so much. So we were going to talk about water fasting part 2. And we may or may not, but if you have some water fasting questions, I'm going to go back and change the thumbnail so it's less misleading, because at this point I have misled you just ever so slightly. But when we were talking about kind of being discombobulated, kind of, stressed or anxious around the holidays, we talked a lot about that last night. And I don't know if I ever finished the sentence, but if you have water fasting questions, put them in the comments and we will get to your topic and answer your question. But until then, you're just going to see like Girls Afternoon, I think, where we talk about what's going on. And Dr. Steph was saying that she has some really good techniques for when you feel anxious, stressed, things that the holidays kind of bring out of us either consciously or subconsciously. And I know you've been running all over the place, so you're in a different place on the East Coast. Do you want to talk about some of the stuff that's been going on with you and maybe introduce yourself for anyone who's new?
Yeah. Well, it's always a pleasure to be on here. I know Kathy and I last month was a busy month for me and I wasn't able to come on the show and I was super bummed about it. So I'm so happy that here we are, November 8th on the show. It's happening today. But thanks for having me, Kathy. It's always a pleasure to be on here. I'm Dr. Steph, for those of you that don't know. I am a holistic doctor in Southern California, and my primary focus is on chronic digestive issues, mast cell activation syndrome, which I know we chatted about on a previous talk, and just like mystery symptoms. I love diving into that with people that have been really struggling with their health and have, labs that look good but don't feel well, and just really diving into the why if somebody isn't doing so well. So that's really the primary focus of my practice, and I bring in different techniques to support, which is why we did talk about water fasting, I believe, on the last one, and just other things, nutrition, low toxin living, all these things that I educate people on too on my TikTok and Instagram at Dr. Steph Peacock. And yeah.
And it's actually underneath you.
Oh, is it really? Oh, no way.
Yeah.
So underneath. So find me here. That's good to know. I didn't know that. So yeah. So thank you for having those up there, by the way. That's very sweet. So that's who I am. It's what I do. And and if you ever have any questions, just reach out. But yeah, no, it's been a crazy time. It's for myself personally, and that's what Kathy and I were talking about before, but I know she said she's been feeling discombobulated, a lot of things. It seems like the end of the year brings out a lot of things that need to be done quickly, and there's like a rush to finish certain things or certain tasks. On top of the fact that it's the holidays, we get together with a bunch of people, we're planning events and things like that. And then myself personally have a lot of family events lately. And so my husband and I, we're like the only people in our family that live out on the West Coast. We live all the way out in California. We're 3,000 miles away from every single family member. So if we're the ones, if there's an event, we're going to the East Coast. So I was in Florida a few weeks ago, and then now I'm actually in Charleston, South Carolina for the first time ever, visiting with my husband's parents. It's been fabulous. But again, it's just that, running around, lots of stuff going on. And as Kathy had mentioned, I was saying how I do have a few techniques to really support my nervous system and to support just that parasympathetic state, because it's so easy to get caught up in the last minute, like rat race type stuff, like that you have to get done, and all the travel and family time and all these things at the end of the year. And really, really important to take care of yourself and just find that like 30 minutes a day that you can focus on yourself. And A couple of techniques that I do this every time I travel. I do it every day at home. Is but especially with travel is supporting the nervous system in a few different ways. So one of my biggest ones is actually grounding. Other people know it as earthing. So it's where you put your bare feet on the earth's surface for a minimum of 15 minutes. And there are actually quite a few research studies on this, which is really fantastic to show the effects. So what's occurring with grounding is you're actually absorbing the negative ions from the Earth's surface that help to stimulate so many healing mechanisms in your body. So it's been shown to promote recovery, decrease inflammation, decrease joint pain, puts you into that parasympathetic state, and all these other amazing, there's other things as well I can't remember right now, but and if you just type into like PubMed or to any, just even into Google, just type in like effects of grounding research papers, you'll see a whole host of them. And especially when I travel, it's something that I do because when you're getting off an airplane, even like a long car ride, right, you're potentially going across different time zones. There's a lot of different things that you get exposed to traveling, and it's really important to decrease any inflammation that you had gotten exposed to, and so any inflammatory factors. So grounding is truly one of the best things you can do, and if you give yourself those 15 minutes after a flight, you will notice the difference. It helps with your circadian rhythm, increasing melatonin to help you sleep better. It's really fabulous. So that's one thing that I do. So even here, we've been here now for 5 days. I go out every day and I go find a little patch of grass or dirt and I just like sit with my feet there. It might look weird. I don't care. I'm doing it. So I do that.
I love that.
Yeah,
Do what feels best, no matter what other people are thinking. I think is a great thing to take away from this, as well as grounding.
Yes, I agree. And that's, and that I live by that too, because I know it's good for me. And then, you know what, I don't care what other people think of me because I'm like, you know what, I'm feeling good doing this, so I'm doing it. And then the other thing I do too is I do just breathing, like diaphragmatic breathing. So like some deep breaths. So you can do it in various ways. You can do meditation. If meditation doesn't sit well with you, you can do like square breathing, where it's you breathe for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then do that again. That's called square breathing. You could do alternate nostril breathing. Those different mechanisms actually really help to support your body into getting to that parasympathetic state. And so I try to do a mix of a few different things like that when I travel. And so, especially when I'm traveling, because it's so, traveling just heightens that sympathetic response. And we know when we're in that sympathetic dominant state, that it's decreasing your liver's ability to detoxify, it's decreasing your gut motility, which is why a lot of people notice that they get really bloated or maybe even constipated when they travel. It is just placing your body into a whole set of other setting your body up for some different inflammatory mechanisms because of the fact that you're in that sympathetic dominant state. So even if it's like 15 minutes, if you just do the grounding, that's really great. But those are a couple of the things that I personally do when I travel, just to make sure, and I do it every day, 30 minutes for sure, to get into that parasympathetic state.
I love that you're setting aside 30 minutes a day, because the more discombobulated, the more whatever's going on in my mind is spinning, the harder it is to take even sometimes 5 or 10 minutes. But having it be a routine is a smart way of doing it. And Susan is asking, and I think this doesn't really count for you, but do you do grounding outside in the winter? Because you live in California, you can do it. There's not like 3 feet of snow. So
Yeah.
if you're either in a position where it's maybe not safe to go do something like that unguarded outside, is there a way that you could encourage someone to do it inside if like there's a snowstorm or a thunderstorm or
definitely. Okay. Oh yeah, that's actually a really great question. I'm glad someone brought that up. Thank you, Susan. So yes, actually. So first thing is, I've actually never grounded in the snow, but I know a ton of people, even athletes, that will do that. They will go out every day and still ground in the snow. But of course, there's going to be days where it's like not safe. Like, like you said, like there could be a giant blizzard. Like you don't want to risk your life to go like ground for 15 minutes or like, a giant thunderstorm. So you can actually get grounding mats. And I actually personally have one as well that I brought with me. I just got it like a month ago, and it is a game changer, because there are still days that I can't go out like I could, but again, like you said, Kathy, like sometimes you're just so busy that it's finding that time is just, it's sometimes just impossible. Like you can't like go drive down to the beach or whatever. So I have a grounding mat, and that's been really helpful for days that I can't get outside. And you can actually purchase one of those. I actually do have, I believe it is on my online store, but my favorite grounding mat is the company is called TheraSage, and they have a grounding mat that is wonderful. And I brought it with me here. It's actually in the other room. I wish I had it so I could show you. But essentially what it's doing is the mechanism behind it on how it works is, and I might not say this correctly super well, but it's you're plugging the mat into an outlet, and all outlets end up going into the ground basically. So all that electrical mechanism. So it's transferring those negative ions then from the Earth's surface into the mat. So then you're actually able to ground. And so I will use that, and I absolutely love it. And I will even sit on it, and then I will do like my meditation or my deep breathing or something like that, alternate nostril breathing, to even like a double whammy. I'm getting into that double parasympathetic state. So I'm like, all right, give me all the parasympathetic nervous system work. But yeah, that's really great. And even there's other grounding mats out there too. Like that's my personal favorite one when I researched them. And I love their saunas too, by the way. They're really great saunas, but it's a great company. So.
That's so interesting. I'm looking it up. I had actually never heard of a grounding mat before.
Oh, yeah.
And so in looking at it, because the last thing I was expecting is that it would plug in or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
that seems the antithesis of like meditation and grounding. But it's very interesting that now we're using some of the technology to soothe us as well as to make us anxious. Right?
I know exactly.
So I love that. TS is asking, do you have any suggestions for breathing techniques when someone has asthma and tends to do more shallow breathing? Because I think that is a pretty common issue.
Absolutely. I have actually, this is great because I get quite a few patients with asthma. And so, yes, so you don't even need to, so there are multiple ways to get into that parasympathetic state. So a lot of times you'll see most people talking about meditation and breathing. Those are really fabulous actually, but they're not the only mechanisms. So some things you can do is grounding. You don't even have to obviously, do any breathing with that. You can just, that is enough to get you into that parasympathetic state. Another one is acupressure points. So you can like just Google acupressure points for parasympathetic state. And there's like, they're at the top of the head, in between the eyebrows, on the bridge of the nose, in between the thumbs here. You just hold them lightly for 30 seconds. That actually stimulates your vagus nerve like really, really well. If you look up this book, if you get this book by Stephen Porges, it's called the Anatomy of the Vagus Nerve. Let me look it up really quickly. Sorry, because I don't want to screw it up. But so he has these amazing exercises that take 1 to 2 minutes that actually support your vagus nerve, and one of them is placing your hands like this into kind of like a bit of a like that, and then you'll lock your fingers in. And you'll place it here on the back of your head, just like that. And then you lay down on your back. And what you're doing is you're supporting your head, but you're letting your neck and everything else kind of relax down. And what happens is then what you do is you look to the right and you wait for when a yawn, a sigh, or any other type of just subconscious like mechanism comes to you. Usually it's a yawn or a sigh. And then when that happens, that means that your vagus nerve is releasing on the right side. And then you do the same thing. You'll look only with your eyes to the left side, and you do the same thing, and you wait for that. And that is actually one of the best ways to release the vagus nerve, because the vagus nerve starts in the brain and it works its way down through the back of the neck. So it's releasing the structural piece of the vagus nerve, because there's two aspects to the vagus nerve. There's the piece that signals to everything in your body, and then there's the actual structural piece, meaning where it's physically coming out. And you usually want to work both aspects of it in order to really get into that parasympathetic state. So doing that exercise, that takes like 2 minutes. That is fabulous for releasing the vagus nerve. And then doing like acupressure points, grounding, obviously, yeah, the alternate nostril breathing and the other stuff will be harder with asthma. My last favorite one I'll mention real quick is this app. So there's specific resonances and frequencies that stimulate our vagus nerve. And one of them is called Brain Tap. And it is I've been using it now for 6 months, and I notice such a difference when I use it. So I actually will use it and I'll walk around with it, or I just like lay down and just do some breathing with it, or I ground with it. But it's just an app that has the different music frequencies on it, and you can pick whichever one you want, and you just put in headphones, and then you listen to that, and that's a really, really fantastic one as well. It's called the Stephen Porges.
Okay, I'm trying to look up both these things too. So with the book, who's the person who wrote it again?
Oh, wait, hold on. I thought it was Stephen Porges, but actually he wrote the polyvagal theory. Hold on one sec.
Okay, no problem. And then Brain Tap, it's not headphones. It's just an app separate from anything else,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So Brain Tap comes with headphones that you could use. It's just a lot more money because the app
Okay.
itself costs a little bit of money. It's not super expensive, but it's definitely, it's more expensive than other apps. But it's really cool. The Brain Tap headphones are really cool because then when it's doing it actually has they'll vibrate, and then they also have light as well. So it's different mechanisms of kind of attaching onto the vagus nerve to stimulate it. And you get the frequency noises too. And then you could I don't actually have the headset. I just bought the app.
The headset's very expensive. It's just like a VR headset. But yeah,
exactly.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure too I was in the right place. And I just want to say I did the thing along with you, the arm thing, and that was super easy. And I wasn't even laying down. I just tried to make sure I took a deep breath and released my shoulders down, and I can feel it. Just doing it now along with you. So I want to let everybody else know, if you didn't do it, we just did like this and put this back. It's so simple. And I think it's not that all the other things you said weren't amazing, but you don't have to be anywhere. You don't have to get anything. Right. So do all the things if you can, but if you can only do one thing today, I would do that one.
Yeah, that went great. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to look up that, I'm still here. I'm just going to try to look it up so that way I can get that for you.
Okay.
The name of the author and book, because I don't know why I am like totally blanking on his name. I know I'm getting close to the, what do you call it? I know the name of the book, kind of, but let's see.
I remember the first letter of people's names and nothing else. It's super unhelpful. I'm like, why bother, brain? Why bother? But like, Angela from Boomer and Wellness was saying, I love Dr. Steph's suggestions. They're far from just the mechanical act of breathing, and I agree. And they're also and again, just like I was saying in the beginning, one of the things that I love about your suggestions is you give a variety so people can pick what will work for them, which I think is brilliant. And like, because even kind of for me, I'm like, I don't always want to go outside and put my feet on the ground, but we have another solution. And that's just more because I'm lazy. And then I look around the yard and go, oh, look at all this work I should be doing. So right now, that's not the key point for me. And Jane,
that gets you more into a stress state. You're like, oh, dang it, there's work I have to do. You know what? I'm not going there.
Yeah, what I'm doing now is kind of like cleaning up the bedroom really well, so I have this one safe, uncluttered place that I can go. Because I think that, and sometimes whatever your lowest level, I have to do this. Like, it could be a bathroom. If all you need to do is just tidy the bathroom to have a completely clean space and take a bath. Like, when I'm really stressed, I like to put in some nice bath salts, some Epsom salts, put on some music. And
that is seriously another amazing way to relax is like you just said, like do something that like always that makes you really happy. So like a nice warm bath with Epsom salt, that is actually a really great way to relax for sure. Even if it's just like a foot soak, that's really great as well. Or if it's like getting together with like a friend that you like love dearly, and like you guys can laugh and you guys have a really great time, because laughing actually stimulates your vagus nerve, believe it or not. So it's amazing. And I also wanted to say hi, Angela, because I love her and she's really wonderful. And I did a Instagram live with her a bit ago, and she's just absolutely fabulous. So she's wonderful human.
She
So
is. She is. And just so
yeah.
everybody knows, so Jane was saying if you have a small head, the headset for Brain Tap doesn't fit. She tried it. Believe it or not,
No.
I have a small head. Like, and Cheryl keeps not believing it. So when we're at Disney, I have to shop in the kids' hats. Like literally, I have to buy kids' hats. So that might be
That's too
something that
funny.
you'd think about.
Oh,
So
and
I
then
could end up with
that
cool hats though.
oh, I bet you do, especially because they make kids' hats real fun. So I'm sure you're ending up with some really spunky ones. I wanted to mention really quickly, I found the name of the book. It's called Accessing the Healing Power of the Vagus Nerve, and it's by Stanley Rosenberg. And that he has like 10 different exercises similar to that one I just told you that take like 1 to 2 minutes to do, that release the vagus nerve and help to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system again. So there it is. Oh, I think your microphone's off. Just so you know, sorry.
I was saying you might hear Max in the background. Cheryl is off at work today, so I don't know if he saw a chipmunk or what, but he's very worried about someone. So you may hear some whining.
That's cute.
I know you only have a little while, and so I am good. Since we have a couple of questions that were fasting, I'm going to see, one's going to be a quick answer, one is going to be a long answer-ish possibly. Alicia
Great.
says, what is the maximum unsupervised water fasting you'd recommend? So unsupervised is the key.
Yeah. So I'll put it this way. So at the TrueNorth Health Center, which is the best medically supervised water fasting facility in the country, and in my opinion, the world, we can medically supervise fasting up to 40 days. Never recommend going above 40 days for water fasting. When I'm working with patients, the most I will do remote is 5 days. If somebody is doing it without anyone around and just doing it by themselves, I would personally not recommend any more than 48 hours. The reason why is because 48 to 72 hours is the transition into ketosis. And that's where your body starts to burn fat for fuel as opposed to glucose, which is the carbohydrate source and the most common source that our bodies are using on a daily basis. So once you're starting to get in that ketosis state, that ketogenic state, that's where you really start to dive into some of those really good like healing mechanisms. But that's also where a lot of different like detox symptoms can start to come up for you. And it's common for people to start to on that transition to feel really lightheaded, to get really weak, to feel fatigued, to get really bad headaches, maybe get really sore like back and lower legs. Sometimes people can actually get really nauseous and potentially vomit. And I mean, there's all kinds of different detox symptoms, and it's really important at that point to work with somebody who knows how to get you through it, or to say, you know what, you got to stop. We'll hold off for like a day or two and maybe restart. And I know fasting can sound kind of like simple. It's like, oh, I'm just water fasting. It's easy, but you know, there's so many variables that go into fasting, and to even make sure that you're a candidate for fasting. By making sure, you know, we look at blood work, make sure that your glucose levels are good. I mean, there's all kinds of things we have to look at just to make sure you're even like good to fast. So if you're to do it alone, I wouldn't do more than 48 hours. Absolutely. But yeah, so that was my answer. 2 days.
Okay, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And before you would do it alone, because it sounded like what you just said in the last sentence was make sure that you can get medically cleared to do it on your own as well.
Yeah. So, good point. So, you know, if you're doing like just kind of like a water fast on your own without getting medically cleared, like usually like you probably be okay with like 2 days. But again, but there are certain things that you want to look out for as well that some people might be a little more sensitive. For example, someone like with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, or that has like really out of control, like blood sugar issues, like typically above 200 fasting glucose would not want to water fast at all. So that's a big no-no. is in that specific situation as well. So, I mean, in general, I would always recommend somebody just like get cleared and like just to work with somebody. And you know, maybe even if you're just getting routine blood work and if everything looks good and they're like, okay, well, maybe I'll do a day or two on my own. But something, you know, that's safe to do for the most part is doing like a fasting mimicking diet. So if you're trying to do some sort of fasting and stimulate that ketogenic state and to lengthen your telomeres, promote longevity, you know, regenerate new stem cells, all the good things that happen with fasting, you can actually do the Prolon fasting mimicking diet that's developed by Valter Longo, Dr. Valter Longo. He's a PhD out of USC. And he created, it's all plant-based actually, and it's 5 days worth of these meals that are about, I believe it's about 600-ish, 500 to 600 calories a day. But the way the meals are set up is that they're actually tricking your body into thinking it's fasting. And so you actually get amazing benefits from it, but you're still eating. So it's still like, you know, most people are still able to work and feel like good. So water fasting can really tire you out. It's very hard to function, in my opinion. And I fasted. I've done it also. But I actually do have a on my website, I actually have a link for the Prolon fasting mimicking diet. So if you get like, I think with my code, you get like, oh my gosh, I think you get like $100 off so I think it ends up being like $139 for the box, or $129, something like that. You can also use my code. If you go on the fasting mimicking diet, it's Peacock. So with the capital P, PRO, then a capital S, then a capital P for Peacock, Peacock. That's my code actually, so you can use that because I've been starting to use that a little bit more with patients. That's how I remember all my codes and stuff. But because you actually have to have I believe you have to have somebody refer you or have like a QR code or something to purchase from them. But it's really fantastic. Friends of mine just did it too. Absolutely loved it. They felt absolutely amazing, and and they were able to work. So I've been doing it a lot more and more with my patients. It's just an easier way to get the fasting benefits.
Oh, that's tons of great information.
Thank you.
So thank you. And I will try and go back and put that on. But if you go to stephaniepeacock.com/fasting, it's right there too. So
Yay.
you
Thank
don't
you.
have to worry about trying to remember all the things. And I will go back and put it in. The other question that I said was going to be longer, and we have about 15 minutes, which is probably not nearly long enough. So you can choose how you want to answer this or make your own question from it, which is from Lori, who said, I would really like any and all information on the water fast. I think that would really help and change my path. And one thing, Lori, if you're still watching, what I would love to know, maybe what you're willing to share, if you're willing to share, is like, is there a reason what is the path that you're looking for? So Dr. Steph isn't really going to be able to tailor the answer to you without any of that information. However, maybe you could talk about a few things that fasting is good for, and maybe a few things that if you had it, fasting isn't necessarily the first thing you want to do. So maybe that would give us a little bit of choice in what she asks next.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best things for fasting are going to be any sort of chronic lifestyle, anything that's a result of chronic lifestyle disease, anything that's a result of dietary excess that results in chronic lifestyle diseases. So for example, those types of symptoms that pop up really are going to be like high blood pressure, blood sugar issues, so like type 2 diabetes, and then being overweight. So those are like the three things Dr. Goldhammer states that fasting will work the absolute best for. Completely safe. Now the thing there is to making sure that especially with that blood sugar, you never want that fasting glucose number to be above 200 before you're going into a fast. So that in that sense, like what we would do at TrueNorth Health Center, what they're still doing now when I was there, is eating the good food, naturally bringing down that blood sugar response with good diet, right? So that's key there, is eating salt, oil, sugar free, whole food, plant-based, and no processed foods, all those different things, and then work on bringing the blood sugar down, and then you can fast safely. Now, for those individuals for not fasting, usually we don't really recommend, at least, it is usually if you're like in like stage 4 cancer. I believe there's a specific age number. It's like below like 12 years old and then above like 85, like very elderly or like very young, we have to be careful with. Also with low BMI. So, if someone's very underweight, right, fasting is using fat stores to heal and to burn fat for fuel and things like that to get in that state. And if your BMI is below 16.5, that's where we would just be like, we can't do that. And then I'm trying to think, like late stage kidney disease as well. Never fasting for that also. But things that we've also seen, right? They just in Walter Longo's research. So he was the one that developed that fasting mimicking diet. He developed it specifically for, all the benefits of fasting, but he actually was looking at cancer in rats, and that's how he was developing it. And so the way we know that cancer spreads is that it's forming new blood vessels, and that can help to spread it to other areas of the body. What fasting does is it actually puts a stop on that and stops it from being able to spread. And then it can actually has been shown, and I know that TrueNorth Health Center has a couple case studies, I believe, on shrinking tumor size. So again, it's not going to be the case for everybody. Everybody is different in how they might respond, but we've seen fabulous results with that as well. And then another great thing for fasting too is, I'm kind of jumping back and forth between what's good and what's bad for fasting, but another thing that we would fast a lot of is autoimmune conditions. So that it takes about 3 weeks of medically supervised water fasting is where we kind of see that magic number for putting it into remission. And again, autoimmune condition is what it sounds like. It's the body's own tissue is getting attacked by itself. And so it can be in different areas of the body. So a really common one is like Hashimoto's, like thyroid issue. Other ones can be in the gut, like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, in multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, those different ones. I did remember there was one patient actually at TrueNorth I remember with rheumatoid arthritis that causes a lot of joint pain. And I think she's on like day 3 of her fast, and her joint pain was completely gone for the first time in so many years. It was just amazing. And before my time even getting there, I'll say one more thing is there was a patient that had diabetes, type 2 diabetes. It was so bad that they actually had like lost their eyesight because diabetes is affecting, the arteries, and there's arteries that go to your eye. And so those had started to get a little bit clogged up, for lack of a better term, and then they started to lose their eyesight. And through fasting, they regained their eyesight. I don't know how long it took for them to fast to get to that point, but it's really amazing what fasting can do. It really absolutely is. So, yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. And so Lori did answer some things. So I'm going to read the 2 things, and then maybe you could say if you think it might be worth looking at for her, and or if maybe she should reach out to you or someone else who can help her fast remotely, or if she can't go to TrueNorth. And so
Absolutely.
Lori says, trying to get blood sugars in better control and lose a bit of weight, as well as to get healthier, just get healthier. I do eat mostly SOS and try to stay away from the vegan junk. I had 4 stents done 4 years ago with no more issues from my heart.
Okay. Well, absolutely. So again, any sort of cardiovascular type disease is a result of high saturated fats and processed foods. High saturated fats primarily found in animal products, but then you'll find in a lot of junk foods as well. So absolutely. And, that would be a case more for Dr. Goldhammer to probably assess in terms of just what's been done. But absolutely, in terms of that, that's a great candidate for fasting being very helpful. Absolutely, because we know that eating plant-based, we've seen, has reversed that atherosclerosis, which is that buildup of plaque in arteries. And so fasting is something that fast tracks it. So I think Dr. Goldhammer would say, can fast track things almost by like, it's like getting like a 3-month head start on something or a 6-month head start. Like fasting really can just like fast track things. So yeah, absolutely. That's a really great way to support the body and reducing that plaque buildup is fasting. Yeah. And was
And
that the question, Kathy? Or
yeah,
was there something
and
else you want me to
well, and with the blood sugar too, that would also help because isn't blood is I don't know if blood sugar is always associated with diabetes or
No, it is. It actually is. So it's a good question. It is and it isn't, right? So it's when the blood sugar gets to a certain number, like your hemoglobin A1C, which is looking at 3 months worth of your blood sugar response, and then also looking at your fasting glucose will kind of determine if someone is pre-diabetic, diabetic, or really diabetic. And so again, yeah, like you said, so looking at the blood sugar issue and making sure that that is under control, and that you want to also make sure that it's staying pretty stable too, throughout the day. Like usually people are kind of monitoring it, but making sure you're not getting to like above 200, like at nighttime, like when you're not eating, because, eating naturally, even plant-based will stimulate that blood sugar response, right? When you eat, that's just naturally what happens. And so at nighttime, sometimes what we can see is if somebody has been diabetic for a very long time, they might have, even without eating, will have that blood sugar spike up during the night to about 200. And that's something you want to look out for too, to make sure it's safely, to make sure that somebody is a good candidate for fasting too. Is with fasting that you're not eating anything. So we don't want that blood sugar going high without getting any food in you. So yeah, definitely making sure that blood sugar is good.
great. Lori says thank you, and she'll look into the option for sure. And
Great.
then Angela was talking about her 10-day water fast with Dr. Frank Sabatino, and I put that up, and I know you know about that too. And I
Mm-hmm.
think just kind of as a final question, because I know you have to go pretty soon, is you keep saying blood sugar over 200. So I know that because Cheryl has type 2 diabetes, though she's gotten so much better since we've done the starch solution. So she's off all of her medicines except for a little bit of insulin. And
That's amazing.
yeah, and day four. And
Oh,
she
wow.
was off of the insulin, but then she had a really bad poison ivy allergy and had to use a
Oh,
topical steroid, which kind of
mm,
messed with her blood sugar, right? As that's why they wouldn't
mm-hmm.
give her an oral one. And it's supposed to come down pretty quickly, but it's still taking a while. She's also super stressed about it. So I don't know if that's her cortisol and everything else
Oh,
too.
right. Oh, boy.
So, because that never helps anything. My body seems to think it'll fix everything, but it doesn't. The extra stress. So, when we go to her regular GP, because her morning blood sugar or resting blood sugar, or whatever it is, so you can tell I don't have it, is never more than 180. And she's really
Mm-hmm.
kind of stressed about it being 180, because then we go to our GP and it's like, well, that's really high. I wish you would start taking the metformin again, or one of the things. And so she decided to not, but I think she's also, and so part of me, when you were talking about the Prolon, I was wondering if that might be a good thing to try to see if that could help her get over that hump without having to fast or anything
Right.
like that right
To
now.
fast track it. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely to fast track it. And again, too, is something I always try to tell people, and even with my own healing journey, it's what I had to just always remind myself. But it takes a while to get to a point where you have the symptoms, the things that show up on lab work, and it's so wonderful you guys are doing the starch solution and eating so well, and it takes a little time to get to that point, right? And like Dr. Goldhammer had said, like fasting fast tracks things by like 3 or 6 months, right? So 9 months even. So it's diet is absolutely so critical, but again, it can be, for some people it can be a fast process, but most of the kind of a slow process to really decrease that inflammation and overall inflammation. And again, too, stress is big. stress is big with that blood sugar response. It really is. And so grounding. Yes, go out and ground. Tell her
I'll
to
show
go
her
put her
this
feet on
thing
the
too.
yeah.
Um,
Show her that.
because
Yeah.
I know when she went, I think I told you about this, because when she went to the emergency room to get a steroid, because it had been 2 weeks with the poison ivy stuff, and she's just so allergic. It was so bad.
Oh,
And they were like, oh, well, we would never give you a steroid pill as an active diabetic. And this was like less than 2 weeks after we did the program. And so that was a real blow. So, and I want to tell this story a little bit too. So you guys who are watching know that it's not a straight line. It's like, did the starch solution for 12 days, good for the rest of my life, right? That's how I want it to be. But there's,
right.
some little things. And part of it is when we were on vacation, we were at a conference and they gave us vegan food. And you're probably thinking, oh, you had a lot of processed food. No, we had salad, literal garden
Mm.
salad with chickpeas and beets. But we also had 10 minutes to eat as much salad as we could eat. So she's also struggling with, like, she really kind of felt starved because
Mm.
we had a plan. We were going to cook in our room, but we had zero time. Like sometimes we would have less than 5 minutes, not even enough to microwave something and change clothes
Mm.
and leave. So I think she's struggling a little bit with that too. So I'm going to bring up the Prolon with her because I think it's going to be a little bit of like, okay, you're going to have soups and stuff for 5 days. And I think she's going to get a little nervous about feeling hungry. Do you know, like, do you get some of those same symptoms from the Prolon?
Usually no. So not those like really bad detox symptoms usually, but in terms of like the hunger, like yeah, you'll most likely feel hungry for the first couple of days just because it's such a lower amount of calories. But then once you're kind of really getting into that ketogenic state, like the third through fifth, it's usually a lot easier. It's those first couple of days of any type of fasting that are the hardest because your body's still burning through its remaining glucose stores. So your body's just like, where's like my food? Like, I'm like, I need to eat. And I'm like, I'm starving. And then, but once you start burning fat for fuel, that actually suppresses hunger. So usually it's just trying to like get to that place. And so I'm not going to say that it's easier. I think it is easier, but it's still, it can be a little bit harder to do, but it's,
Well, I could see how it would be easier if nothing else than just the habitual habit of doing so. Even if it's a soup that you're drinking instead of eating a meal, you're taking in something so you're not constantly thinking, where's my next, when do I get
exactly.
food?
And that's what makes water fasting really hard, in my opinion, was that as humans, we're used to our like meal times. It's like, it's part of your day. Like you don't even realize how much time you spend a day cooking and cleaning and, preparing food and eating food until you actually just don't even do it. Cause then you're like, wow, what do I do with my life? It's like 5 hours a day or whatever. So yeah. So actually with the Prolon, it's kind of great because then you have your little meals. And then they have like little teas too. I think they have like some hibiscus tea and different things like that. You can sell black coffee on it too. So if anyone's here is a coffee drinker or like a green tea, you can have that too. So you're not getting too far away out of your normal routine versus like fasting. That's like no coffee, no tea, no nothing. It's just water all day, every day. So
Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk to her and see. I've looked at it before, but I think just for right now, I would really love to see if she's ready for that. To see
yeah,
if
yeah,
there's something new we can do, because like we really are eating well, and I think it's just taking longer. She's also, during those 12 days, she wasn't working as much. And I think if
right.
she hadn't gotten poison ivy, there wouldn't have been this kind of back thing. But
Yeah.
she's so allergic, and our friends
Mhm.
had goats clean out the poison ivy in their backyard, and we got to go play with them, and I was all up in those goats, and I'm the only one that didn't get poison ivy. So I
Oh
don't
my
know
God.
if I might be immune. I don't
I
know.
maybe. Oh,
Oh, I'm just like, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I
I'm
way more
picturing
on
you.
them. Oh yeah,
Sure.
no, I hug everything. You've seen pictures of me with vegetables. I'm just like,
Yeah.
come here, goat. Where do you itch? Let me get in there. And so,
You're amazing.
I'm ridiculous because I am 58 and a half years old, and if you take me to a petting zoo, I will sit in that hay. And I know better. Why? So the goat can get on my lap. I don't care if I'm sitting in goat pee, but I'm going to be scratching on it.
Aw,
So,
goats are the best too. They're impossible not to love. They're the best.
and these are little worker goats. They're just like, hey, I know I'm looking cute. Don't you want to pet
Yeah.
me? Like, and so,
And
like,
you're
at
like,
one
yes, I
point, I
do.
had like 6 of them surrounding me, like waiting to be petted. It was so
Oh,
awesome.
that's amazing. I love that.
And TS, it is called Prolon, and let me look it up here, and I'm pretty sure you spelled it the right. Yeah, Prolon, Prolon. And I'll come
Yeah,
back and put that in the show notes as soon as we're done. Um,
perfect.
but this was just so great, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your vacation to come hang out with us and tell us how to chill out.
Oh, of course, this was very fun. And Kathy, I always love if I have the time, I am here. Like, I love to be on your show. Like, absolutely. It's so much fun. Thanks for having me. And it was really fun to kind of have a little off the cuff, like, let's just talk about whatever. Let's see what's going on in everyone's life. We still brought in some fasting and we got to talk about a lot of stuff. So it was absolutely great. Thank you for having me and for everyone
Oh,
for watching.
and maybe what we can do for December, if you're able to come on, and
Yeah.
you can email me that too, is maybe we can just talk about, like you were saying, some good foods to eat, or maybe some teas to drink, or things to do to kind of like take some of the stress and bring some of the enjoyment back in the
Yeah.
holidays. Because I think it's, in a way,
Great.
it's all of our favorite season, except for the
Yeah.
summer people, right? Like, I love fall, and I feel like Halloween just happened without me.
I
It's so
know
weird.
the exact feeling. Like every year as the holidays approach, I'm like, I'm so ready. I can't wait. I'm like, so, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what happened? So this year I'm like,
Wonk
all right,
wonk.
like, yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm soaking every day of this in. Like, even if I'm stressed, like, this is happening because I love the holidays so much. So, yeah, well, that'd be fun. We could do like, talking about ways, yeah, like some good foods to incorporate recipes. I don't know. I love Christmas, so that'll be approaching Christmas time. So, and we can even talk about our Thanksgivings, maybe what we ate.
Yeah, and I'm going to go live on Thanksgiving. We haven't decided what time. We're working out when we're doing that. So, and hang out with people, because I feel like, sometimes the holidays can be hard too. So,
Yeah.
we're going to go live on most of the holidays. So, I know there's like 70 bazillion December holidays for people. So, if there's a holiday you want us to be live on, email me at kathyhester@gmail.com. We usually do something on kind of Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, but I am open to other holidays. I do a little winter solstice.
Oh,
We could
oh,
do,
that's fabulous.
I can't really do like Hanukkah, but I can hang out with you during Hanukkah, just because we don't really do Christmas either. So we just do a little bit of everything. But if there's a holiday you would like to make sure someone's there to hang out with you, let me know.
No, I
Yeah,
love.
and
I'll
thank
have
you,
to.
Doc. Oh,
Yeah,
go
I'll have
ahead.
to watch you on Thanksgiving. I'll have you on as I'm making my Thanksgiving meal. So I will. Now I'm glad you said something. I will be there.
That's awesome. Now I'm going to decide what time we're going live. So I have to my friends are coming back today, so we should be able to decide if we're doing lunch or dinner. And then
Oh,
that way
fun.
I'll know if I'm going on in the morning, afternoon, or dinner time.
Oh,
Uh,
awesome. I love it.
yeah, well, have a great rest of your vacation.
Thank you.
Do you get to
Thank you
spend a
so
few more
much.
days?
Yeah, just we're leaving Saturday, going back to good old
Oh,
California. So, yeah, we've been here, we'll have been here a whole week. So, it's been really nice to be with family. That's for sure.
oh,
Love
that's
family.
awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
well, have an amazing day. We will all be practicing grounding and breathing. And yeah, so thank you so much for that. And
You're
have an amazing time, everybody. And
welcome.
don't forget to come hang out with me and Lisa Rice tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay? Have a great day.